Madinah Institute for Leadership and Entrepreneurship, MILE.
AM in New York City. So we'll get started. This is a general overview of offering innovative professional development. I am not a genius. There's no magic. I simply try to show things where they may not have been apparent. I'm from Educational Leadership International, also known as ELI. Please follow me on Twitter and like us on Facebook, and also reach out to communitymile.org and follow what they're doing, because they are doing some wonderful stuff. And we'll move on to the next slide here. I wanted to have some acknowledgments here. Obviously, I would like to say a special thank you to Mr. Ali Jaffrey, the gentleman that you just heard, and Ms. Roveda Kazmi. They're behind the scenes doing all the organization and bringing all these wonderful presentations to you. Especially I'd like to thank communitymile.org. It's a wonderful organization that brings all types of learning to people out there. And I'm also certainly grateful to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The kingdom has a rich history of scholarship, and the people have been quite welcoming to me. It is these types of exchanges that allow us to be better individuals and people of this earth. So thank you and shukran. Shukran. People often ask about professional development, who's it for? And it's really, business executives, of course, educational instructors, administrators. Obviously, this is a session for you. We're going to learn how we can disseminate information effectively. And this seminar is a comprehensive look at professional development in any occupational setting. I don't necessarily care if you are in vocation, if you are a laborer, if you are a think tank, an executive, whatever the case may be. Professional development is something that is very serious, no matter what line of work that you're in. We all must aspire to better ourselves and try to be innovative in whatever line of work that we're in. So this is designed to be light and a general overview. It's meant to enable reflection of all professionals. You're going to hear a couple themes in here. Reflection being one of the most important, because reflection is what gets us to innovation. If we don't reflect, we're never going to be able to innovate. Who should practice professional development? Professional development is for everyone, as I've stated. There are people who think that they do not want it. Those people are the particular people that might need it the most. You might see these people at work. These might be colleagues. They might know it all. They might have an air of arrogance, whatever it might be. Those people expressly need professional development, although they might not see it. People who think they need it but don't want it. They might not want it for a host of reasons. They might not want it because they are overworked. They might not want it because there's no incentive. They might not wish to do it because they feel it's a waste of time. And we're going to explore some of those things as we move on. People who want it but cannot find it. You want to develop. You want to have opportunities to do better. You want to grow. You want to become innovative and creative. But work might not offer it. Your workplace just simply might not offer it. If that is the case, you might have to seek outside of your organization. And some of us already do this. We professionally develop with courses, degrees, what have you. Personally, you go on to find informational sessions like this one. People who already do it but don't know it. Many of us are already professionally developing, and we don't even know that we're doing it. It's intrinsic motivation. It's that drive that drives you to be better. So that also is professional development. All professionals, period, all of us need to develop. I can't stress that enough. What we will learn today. We will examine what professional development looks like and who should seek professional development, but I think that we've cleared that up. I think all of us need it at one point or another. It should be continuous. You want to build on the foundation that you've set in place. We'll also cover these concepts and answer these questions. What does meaningful professional development look like? Is it a PowerPoint? Is it a document? Is it an email? Is it a group activity? Is it a mentoring? What does it look like? Why professional development is important. You know, some people, oh, this isn't important. I don't need this. Well, we're going to find out why it is important. How do we deliver professional development? Do you just say to the group, here's a PowerPoint, good luck, I'll see you later? Do you sit with your colleagues? Do you sit with your employees and go over information? And of course, self-reflection is necessary so individuals can become more innovative. Without reflection, this is a futile task. It's a futile process. Now, this is sort of how I see professional development in a diagram, if you will. It doesn't have to look like this. It could look like this. Education never sleeps. The needs of our professionals do not either. Education, progress, these are two things that never sleep. Humans, we tend to sleep. We tend to sleep a lot, sometimes too much. And as society and the world is becoming more and more global, well, we need to factor that in. We need to be aware of that. In any event, professional development should or could be research-based. You know, you want to have, if you're going to provide professional development, you want to have it rooted or grounded in some sort of research. You know, you just don't want a person off the street who may not know about whatever line of work that you're in sort of talking to you about that. Now, they might have some general insights, sure, but they aren't going to be able to necessarily get to the meat of what you need to discover, if you will. Coursework and experience, you know, some professional development programs, is coursework. There's assessment. There's tests, documentation. Now, as much as we might not like to sit and take a test or even do paperwork, I can understand that can be necessary. It can be a necessary piece. Experience. Experience is key. Experience in professional development is what you've brought to the table, and then hopefully what you wish to take away. But in another note too, you experiencing the professional development, do you feel it? Are you immersed in it? Is it something that brings meaning to you? The experience is something that should be memorable, in my opinion. If it is a piece of paper and you've read it, you've glanced over it, 3 days later, you know, are you really remembering the content? If you're experiencing the content, then that's going to be the most likely way that you're going to be able to replicate it, practice it, etc. Observation. You've got the information. You are set to hit the ground running, but yet you need to do some careful observation of whatever is in practice. If it's a colleague delivering information, one might watch that colleague and see what are they doing, what is their delivery, how are they getting people to buy in. Practical application, well, that's where you come in, and now you're going to apply the skills that you've learned. You know, there's a lot of pieces to this. It's not simply just sitting in a session and then feeling as if you're professionally developed. There's a work that comes with it, and it's continuous. You know, we tend to compartmentalize. Humans sometimes want closure. We want to get the stamp and be done, but it doesn't work like that, and that's a paradigm a lot of us have to wrestle with and come to terms with. So then after your practical application, one of my favorites, reflection. We're so busy in our lives. You know, we're on to the next thing, on to the next feat or accomplishment or achievement, but we rarely take time to reflect, and that's a great disservice to us, not only in our career, yes, but also in our personal lives. Do we take time to reflect on the decisions that we've made? Do we take time to reflect on the practical applications that we've made, the observations that we observed, the coursework that we've done? The reflection is the key component because that's what allows us to get to innovation. When we reflect, we look back on our mistakes, how we could have done it better, failures, although I don't necessarily call them failures. I call them failures in the sense that everybody understands what that means, but it's never a failure, it's a lesson learned, right? Your reflection is what produces those lessons learned, and then that's what delivers us to innovation. Then we can innovate. Well, I can do this better. This is a product that I can make because of what I've thought about, or what the problems have given me. And the problems have given me this solution and that solution, and then we're ready to innovate. I sometimes think people are, think innovation only happens in a lab with some robots and test tubes, but that's not the case. Innovation can happen with something as simple as a pen and a paper and a colleague, perhaps. But these two are the most important, innovation being one of them. Forms of professional development. All the stakeholders want this process to be engaging and authentic. The ultimate goal is to have professional development feel like opportunity or a reward. At times, individuals can feel it as a punishment or a waste of time. Some people feel, oh, this is a waste of my time. I've already done this. I don't want to do it. I need to get paperwork done. Now, bosses need to produce professional development. Executives need to produce professional development where there's going to be buy-in. But this can come in the form of meetings. Everybody have another meeting to go to, and sometimes you get to the point where you're meeting about meetings, right? So sometimes that's not always the funnest, but it is necessary. In some cases, it's a packet of information, whether it's a PowerPoint or a set of emails or perhaps a booklet or pamphlet. Sometimes those aren't the most meaningful because then we're given a document to read, and you not always can absorb the information. Brainstorm or creative work session, those are some of my favorites. I love to get with my colleagues, sit at a table, a whiteboard, markers, and hammer out ideas. It doesn't seem like that's professional development, but when you are working together in concert with your colleagues, when you are hammering out ideas, this is always a great thing, and you tend to learn from those situations. My most favorite are authentic experiences, conferences, motivational sessions. These are a little bit more expensive, so sometimes businesses are leery to put those dollars down or put that capital up front to afford these, but the experiences are something that it's invaluable. When you go to a conference or a motivational session, you're working with your colleagues, there's little downtime, you're bouncing ideas off each other, so that's really when the professional development is becoming concrete. That's when it's going to be sewn into the fabric of your organization's quilt, right, the culture. That's where you want to get to, although it is a little bit more expensive. Sometimes they do these truth or trust building exercises. People stand up on a table, you'll have their colleagues underneath them, they'll fall back. This is in order to build trust. These are just some forms of professional development, not all. There are all different types. It's best to research and find the one that's best fitting for your group. Cost is an issue, I understand that, but you've got to remember, if you want productivity, if you want innovation, one cannot put a price on innovation and reflection. Reasons why professional development is important. There are three main reasons to motivate and seek professional development, according to Pink. Autonomy. Have you ever had that colleague that is coming and asking you 8 times throughout the day, well, how do I do this? They need autonomy. You want to be able to, and you want to, as a worker, you don't want to bother the boss, you don't want to bother your colleagues, you want to be autonomous. You want to be able to move without fear, without doubt, and be able to work on your own, have the answers at your fingertips. That doesn't mean that you're done growing, but it means that you've gotten comfortable to a point that you can execute tasks by yourself, and the boss feels comfortable enough to let you do so. Purpose. We all have a purpose. It's important for us to know as people in an organization what our purpose is. What purpose do we serve? At a very young age, we all ask that same question, why am I here? What purpose do I serve? Now, there are many answers to that question. some comical, some not. But our purpose at work, at the workplace, is ultimately to become indispensable. That's always in American literature with Herman Melville, Moby Dick. You're always chasing the white whale to become indispensable in the workforce. It's a tough thing to do unless you've created a product or started your own business. It's a tough thing to do. So we're all looking for purpose. That's professional development can give us that purpose. Mastery. We want to be masters. We want to make sure that we know our material. We want to be in control of our material. We want to be the authority of our material, as we should be. Why shouldn't we know our craft and be the authority on our craft and have people refer to us? So the mastery is also key. We want to be able to master our craft. Why professional development is necessary. My question for professionals is always the same. I had this discussion with almost thousands of people about this, or I have. How are you going to connect your experience to this job? Your outside experience, your daily experience that you have with the job. Are you unplugging that? Are you not plugging it in? Whatever experience that you have, well, that needs to be relevant to the job. If you're a good team player on a football team or soccer team or baseball team or cricket, then you need to apply those team skills, right? Those team building skills, that team camaraderie, that attitude towards your job. And sometimes it's a little tougher to do because there isn't the gratification one might get from playing those sports. I understand. Bring your skills and roles of that job into professional development and then connect and apply the professional development experience. Some people come from other lines of work. They go to a new job, and this is the particular why I put that sentence in here. You go to another job. What are the skills that you can bring from the old job, the old occupation? What are the skills that you can bring to another position in the firm from the prior position? Think about that. How can these skills be applied? You always must be sharpening your knives, sharpening your pencils, and keeping new tools in the toolkit and making sure that the old ones are still present when we need them. Why do we learn this information? Whether you're a student, whether you're a worker, whether you're an employee, you have this question, why do we have to learn this? Why do we have to do this? I also teach secondary school. At times, students would ask this. Students weren't particularly enthused about learning history from time to time. And they'd always ask, Dr. Fritz, why do we learn this stuff? They're not getting the meaning or reason for the learning. The meaning should be present, so they want to learn, and sometimes that's our fault. If you're an employer, if you are a boss, you want to make sure they know why they're going to learn this. If they are hesitant, if they don't know why, then we need to do a better job of communicating why they're learning this information. Give an incentive. Show the purpose. Lay out the objectives. Here's why we're going to do this. So keep that in mind. Why is professional development necessary? In some cases, employers can take this opportunity to train new employees for the job that employer used to occupy. Again, that falls in line with the prior slide. Before that, take the time to train the employee, and if the employee is coming from another job, that information and that expertise is also valuable. What skills did they learn there? How to deliver professional development. In various settings, one-to-one basis. It depends on the individuals. It depends on the one giving and the one receiving. If you think back to school and you had a crowded classroom, you didn't always get the teacher's attention, but when you did, it felt great. And the same goes for this. Having a one-to-one, it's no better situation because all the attention is focused on you. A group setting, right? It might be just groups of people throughout your organization. It could be through a meeting, a retreat or conference. Again, one of my more favorite parts of professional development or aspects of professional development are going to retreats and conferences. Why? Because you are surrounded by people that are open to new information. They want to learn. They are at this place for this sole purpose. And all of this talent is in the same room, right? Or in at least the same hotel or events area. So you're exposed for that amount of time to nothing but professional development. Oh, by the way, after hours, the sessions are finished, but guess what? The common theme that I've always seen is that after that, people will sit and talk all night long about what they want to do, what they think, ideas, questions. This is very helpful because you're not trapped, but you're in an area where it's all professional development. So use that time to talk to colleagues, talk to new people, make contacts, find out about different professional development opportunities. That's my personal favorite. An event or a trip. An event or a trip sometimes cannot be as structured, and if you're going to do a professional development as a boss or organization or the person that is going to spend the money on this, you know, you want to make it worth your while. So an event or a trip might not have that other aspect the retreat or conference does, simply because they might not be as structured. But if they are structured, then that's a bonus, right? Again, these last two bullet points, retreat, conference, and event or trip, you know, that's where your experience comes in. That's where your experience is more memorable. And then, of course, the internet. You know, like you were receiving today. This is another form. If you are particularly interested, it's going to go a little bit better. You know, it's going to be more germane for you. So keep that in mind. But the chart to the right here, adapt, deliver, and inspect. All your professional development, when it is concluded, you need to think about these things and how it can be delivered later on. You know, what do you need to adapt? How could your delivery be better? Inspect pieces that might work, that might not. Take what you need to. Throw out what you don't want. And just food for thought. Concerns about professional development. Now that all these you know, different forms that I showed you, there are concerns. You know, one of the biggest for firms is cost. But again, I must argue to them that if you want innovation, if you want autonomy, purpose, and mastery, you know, if you want these things, well, it comes with a price. But you also have to be willing to say what it will actually yield. What am I going to get? And that's tough to get the tangibility, if you will. You can't necessarily wrap your hands around that. You can't put a price at times of what you're going to get. But what you might get are motivated workers, people in the field that want to do a better job, people that want to please the boss. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, sometimes you'll see at the workplace, oh, he's trying to please the boss. My response is always, why wouldn't you want to please the boss? Why? Because ultimately you will be pleased, right? So it behooves the boss, right, on the different side of the coin, but same circle. It behooves the boss to make sure that his workers are happy and providing them the opportunity. So cost is something that you have to think about, but also with hesitation in terms of holding the money back. Employee attitudes. Employee attitudes are directly impacted by the boss's attitude, opportunities for development. If the development is useful, if it's not useful, it's going to be a waste of time or redundant. You know, employee attitudes can range anywhere from mockery to absolute, absolute defiance to appreciation. You know, it depends on the individual, and also it depends greatly on the professional development system that's in place. Another great concern is time away from the office or job. You know, you have the work that you've got to get out. You want to get finished. You don't want to be away from the office. These are all great concerns. And again, more attitudes about professional development: mockery, denial. Oh, I can't believe I have to go to this. I don't want to do this. They have paperwork lined up. I've got to get it done. There's denial. Embracing professional development. I learned early on in my career to embrace professional development because you know what? It was an opportunity. And it's funny because it seems like all the opportunities that have unfolded for me were from professional development. It wasn't necessarily at the workplace. It wasn't necessarily looking in the classified section. It was looking to other colleagues and embracing any opportunity that I got, whether it was a free seminar, whether it was a talk with a mentor, whether it was reading a book, whether it was an email, no matter what it was, I was able to work that water and make it valuable, and that's what you have to do. You have to shift the paradigm of, oh, this is a waste of my time, to what can it bring me? What will I learn? And the last attitude is neutrality or complacent. Some people are just, they're neutral, and some people get complacent. They could take it or leave it. But the bottom line, these questions at the bottom, why, how, what, where, which, when, who, closed-ended, yes or no, those questions need to be met. They need to be answered for the people that are going to take the professional development if you're providing it to them, because they're going to have all those questions, and you're going to hear why, who, oh, and they're going to be in the form of complaints sometimes if it's not clear to your employees. So head that off at the pass, take my advice, and make sure those questions are answered, folks. The approach, provide professional development and let people know what the purposes are for this development. It isn't punishment or to bore them. This is a reward and an opportunity. You must get into that mindset. This is a chance for us to grow. This is a chance for us to possibly make more money, to create a product, to become better team players, to make friends, to make contacts. Now, this chart down here simply shows all these different items on what our approach is: planning, presenting, validating the professional development, how you're going to build it, so forth. Trust and professionalism. This is key with professional development. If your presentation or what you have to offer seems rushed, if it is unprofessional, forget it. They're going to know. I remember teaching young students many years ago, and they would ask a question. Dr. Fritz, what's the answer to this? If you try to fool them, they're going to know. So don't get into the business of that. If you don't know how to construct professional development, fine. Find somebody that does. Make it professional. They're going to see through it, and then they're going to be unhappy with you, and it's going to turn into a waste of time, and it will reinforce their views about professional development in a negative light. If you aren't being truthful on outcomes or what needs to occur, you may be in trouble or denial, or both. Make sure that you're being truthful. Well, guys, these are the outcomes that I want to see after professional development. State your objectives. There's nothing wrong with stating your goals. That's a healthy thing. It gives us definition. Another form of professional development, which I love and has been near and dear to me because I've had several mentors throughout the years, and still do. As I get older, I find that some of my mentors are passing away and going to the other side, if you will, but still remembered always. Those mentor relationships are invaluable. The mentoring relationship in an organization can be some of the best professional development. You might need to offer a stipend or a capital reward to the mentor, as you should, but it's worth it. It is so worth it. One, the mentor feels appreciated. Two, the mentee is getting so much out of it. That's sort of a big brother, if you will, big sister. As a mentor of educators or one who does PD, professional development, you need to have trust and be eyes and ears for mentees. The trust is key with boss and employee and employees among their colleagues. Do not take advantage of their trust. Please, please, please. It is necessary sometimes for all the cards not to be out on the table, but in your daily dealings with people, you want to be forthright. I think that's a global characteristic of a culture. Trust is key. Some professionals need to be able to have an advocate for them without the fear of retaliation from administration or management. You're that go-to guy. If there is animosity, a mentor can help buffer this. So keep that in mind. And be the one that introduces the individual to the company's culture, right? If you're a mentor, introduce them to the culture. Make them part of the fabric. You know, you remember your first day of school, sometimes fondly, sometimes not so fondly. Didn't you want a buddy or somebody sort of take you under their wing? That's a great feeling, and it still works at this age. Accountable talk and individual coaching. In the past 10 years, there's been a movement in business and education now for coaches, and it's peer-to-peer coaching. You know, another teacher will coach another teacher, and the method here is to get the person that's being coached. They have the answers within them, right? Just like a soccer player, a football star, they have the ability within them, but you as coach, you're trying to get it out of them. You're not going and kicking the ball. The person is, right? The player is, the employee is, but we got to get that behavior out of them. Be accountable for your deficiencies. If I'm the individual and I messed something up or I didn't do something so well, I need to be accountable. I can't say, well, blah, 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 this happened or this happened. Yes, there are variables to the equation, and it is okay to list those variables, but at some point we also need to take ownership of our deficiencies. You know, and it's a good thing, it's a healthy thing to know our deficiencies, because this is where we can fill them in. If your ego is stopping your progress, then you aren't getting better, are you? The ego is the commonmost factor that I see people fail, where I see people fail. People are guilty of it. Perhaps men more so than women. But you know, traditionally in the West, you have more men in executive positions than women. But ego is a driving force, you know, and sometimes to our detriment. So ego is a tough thing to let go, but it's something at times that must be removed if you want to progress. We don't know it all. If we did, we wouldn't have to worry about a job in the first place and professionally develop, would we? If you stay stagnant, you aren't getting better. You're not moving forward if you're staying stagnant. You're not you actually probably getting worse. Seek a coach or mentor you can trust and who will be honest with you is the bottom line. Don't swallow the poison. This can happen with people and will set them back, take them away from their goal of professionally developing. They say, well, why do I even do this, right? Office politics and dynamics can sometimes dissuade a person from seeking professional development because they may feel it is futile. Professionals can become bitter about their work environment, causing more frustration. High turnover is a symptom of these problems. So don't swallow the poison. Don't buy in. You know, try to stay away from that. Stay upbeat, stay positive, and seek all the professional development that you can. My favorite, self-reflection is necessary so individuals can become more innovative. We rarely take time to reflect. I've discussed this earlier. We move through life always looking for the next thing, and why? Sometimes these answers are right in front of us. Sometimes development is right in front of us. But if we don't reflect, we can't always see the light. We need that time to see where we went wrong, to see what could have been done better, to see what other players or what other people you could have brought in to make a product or program or project better. We need to also reflect on our progress and growth. Please, please, please make sure to do that. Also, aside from work, we should be doing self-reflection in our lives as humans, in our relationships with others. Because our relationships with others, it can mirror what we do at work, right? So if we're having failures in our relationships, in our personal lives, well, it's quite possible you might have the same problems spill over into work. You know, we as humans, we tend to compartmentalize work and home life. It is healthy to do with office politics, right? Everybody wants to get rid of them, but you need, at some point, the two are married in some form or fashion. They are both part of your life. You don't have two lives. One could say, yes, you do, but That is all a consistent strand through your life. So all of this is important, and reflection must be done through all of your practices, relationships with family and friends, as well as your colleagues, right? Because some of our colleagues are friends and a larger family. Becoming innovative. Being innovative will require one to clear out the negative attitudes. Stop thinking what can't happen and what obstacles there are, but embrace ideas and the possibilities. Innovation allows us to find ways to make life easier for ourselves. We needn't worry about parameters or rules yet. Professional development is what enables innovation. We have these negative tapes we play in our heads. Oh, I can't do it. It'll never happen. You need to stop that immediately. If you say it can't, it won't. Obstacles are removable items, and if they're not removable, we will run right through them. These are the types of ideas and mindset that one must program themselves to have. It is the only way you will be able to innovate. People want to get into the business of saying, I can't, or no, or this will be a problem. Get out of that business very quickly, folks. Sometimes we make the mistake of saying, it should be A, B, and C. It should be this. It should, it should, it should. It doesn't necessarily have to be that concrete. It could be, but that's not always the right answer. So I like to get into the habit of saying it could be. That allows us to be a little bit more innovative and not have so many parameters, right? So many obstacles. Pisano, one thing I do as a practitioner is I am constantly reading through new journal articles, webinars, you name it. I am constantly researching and developing. I just read this article recently, and it was great. It was with Pisano, Harvard Business Review, a publication I respect greatly. And Pisano finds that businesses fail at innovation because they do not execute a plan. They say they want to innovate. They go through the practice of trying to innovate, they reflect, but then they don't carry it out. A, they don't let their employees try to fail or do projects, but because that translates as wasting money and time. But sometimes that's necessary. And then this last quote is something that my grandfather told me long ago. He was a poor guy, working class, didn't have passed a 9th grade education, but made himself a very successful cable magnate. And he always told me, thinking about it won't do it, but doing it will. And he's right, and that holds true to this day. We can think about our dreams all we want, but unless we take the action of taking that dream and a pencil and a piece of paper and start actuating and start realizing it and making it happen, then it's just a dream. Dreams are great, but they're better when they come to life. That's innovation. That's the whole point of why we develop. So we can produce something. We can create something. We can change the world. Project-based learning is something I am a big fan of. I do this a lot with various groups of people. And project-based learning in the workplace is something that might be helpful for a person to become innovative. It gives you a workspace to try an idea, create a product before launching it to the public, before launching it for any type of monetary gain. You provide a model or opportunity for people to fail and succeed with project-based learning exercises in-house, of course. It could be a mock project where valuable insight is gained. An innovative project. Focus on our innovation or product at the time. How do we see it happening? How do we see it being implemented? If it could look like a movie, how would it happen? Remember, you're a kid, you're acting out the scene from the movie, and you think about yourself, oh man, what would it look like if I could do A, B, and C? Now, the question sounds trivial and elementary, but it's a great question. If you could do anything that you wanted to do for a project, and you could write your movie, and then we'll worry about the other parts later. We'll see what is possible, what isn't. but you want to put it all out there so you can work back if you have to. How would it unfold? How is this project going to take place? Who will help? Who will be the players? These are questions you should be asking yourself when you're setting out a project. And then, of course, in an organization, your culture. Sponsor it. What executives will be on board? Where are we going to get the funding? Always the biggest question. Question I like to avoid. But I'm usually not the one in accounts, so I tend not to necessarily care about that at the time. Others will deal with that. The incentives. This is a piece too. What are the incentives for? Failure, right? Or what I like to say, lessons learned. Are there incentives? Well, yes, there are incentives because we tend to learn something out of those failures. And the process and technology, right? These are also parts that we need to consider. Problem solving, this is what you do in innovation. Your goal is to solve problems by providing professionals with the tools necessary to grow and ultimately solve problems in the workplace. That's what we do at work. We solve problems. This is what we do when we innovate. You know, professional development allows us, gives us the tools to solve problems. Plan on what we are trying to solve. What will make this different from another solution? Who will be people you employ to bring the idea to fruition? Will I have the space to create? This is important because sometimes you have employees or spaces that are unavailable. You need space and time to create. You know, you need an office or even a desk. And a boss must make space to create and must also allow employees to create and grow, even if that means they outgrow their position. Bosses, if you have an intuition about a person, act on it. Some of us as bosses, we know that somebody would be perfect for a job. Don't let that opportunity go. Tap that person and bring them into the fold because their expertise, talent might raise the bottom and bring everybody up. So make sure that you're providing these opportunities for your employees. You know, administrator's role, it is your job to apply the appropriate professional development for whatever you are trying to solicit. It is also your job to provide growth and development opportunities. The practical guidance I can give is, remember, we are all growing and developing. Even the most polished and people who are in charge have developed and are at where they are at for a reason. The key reason being that they are continuous and lifelong learners. My conclusion before we get into the Q&A, we should be aiming to find professional development that helps us grow. If it is, you know, something that you might not think will help you grow, try to rewire yourself and you know, get into that and just, you know, be objective. You know, see what might help you. You never know what can help you and what professional development will lead you into another type of position. No one likes a PowerPoint handed to them to sit for an hour unless there is great information being transmitted. So remember that. The point there being, make it meaningful, make it have experience, be excited. If you're going to do a PowerPoint, be excited. Make sure that you have the right person that's disseminating that information. And we'll have our question and answer session. Questions I have for you is, what is stopping you from developing? What is something that you want to do in your profession? Let me help get you motivated and make a dream action. I'm here today, but it doesn't mean a year from now, 10 years from now, that you can't reach out to me, and I am willing to help. I'm at your service. I will help you in any way that I professionally can. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me. This is what I do for a living. This is my passion. This is my great love, is education. So please don't ever hesitate to reach out to me and please help me. Thank you very much. Shukran.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Fritz, for a very interesting presentation. Folks, we are open for question and answers. If you have any questions, you could either put it in the question box or you could raise your hand. There's a hand icon available on the console. If you click on it, I will give you an opportunity to speak to Dr. Fritz. Let me go. There was a caller who raised a hand, so let me go straight to. We have Carlos Aslan. Carlos, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, Carlos,
Yes,
can you please introduce yourself and where you're calling from, and please ask the question.
Yeah, hi, Dr. Fritz. This is Dr. Cassio, and I'm actually calling you from Madrid, Spain. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Dr. Cassiano. Good to hear from you, my friend.
Good. Thank you for the presentation. I actually enjoyed it very much. A question as far as when you're talking about compartmentalizing. For some professions, you actually do need to do that. Do you recommend, like, what do you recommend? I know you said that you shouldn't really do that, that you should let everything kind of flow together. How would you suggest in, like, let's say the medical field, to keep yourself from compartmentalizing?
Well, I think I'm speaking to this. You know, this may have been when I talked about compartmentalizing work and play, if you will, work and personal life. You know, it's tough for us. I think that if we can compartmentalize the stressful pieces, right, the things that are stressors that we don't necessarily need to worry about, compartmentalize those things, but the practice and the theory, right? So in other words, I'm never compartmentalizing education. You know, I'm always looking for new research. I'm always looking for that part of the occupation. I'm always trying to see how this part, my education life, can coincide with what I'm doing at home, especially with my children, what have you, or my daughter, what have you. But the politics, the nasty stuff, that I must compartmentalize, right? You know, any type of thing that is a drag, if you will, at work, that is a negative impact, and sometimes that's the most impossible stuff to compartmentalize, you know, because it seeps into our psyche. It plays out at the dinner table with our family. You know, they want to know what's going on with us. We share these things. So I guess what I'm saying is, you know, we want to compartmentalize the part of work that is the nonsense piece, but we want to bring in the academic piece and the scholarship and let that flow into our other part of our life.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the response. I thoroughly enjoyed your presentation, and I hope to hear some presentations from you again.
Great, thank you. I appreciate it, my friend.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Castellan. Thank you very much for your question. And let me move to another caller. Raise the hand. We had Brother Amir Kamar. Sir, you raised your hand. Can you hear us? Hello, Mr. Amir Kamar. Okay, let me move to the chat box. We have Brother Mahmoud Sharaf, who's posted the question. During the rapid changes in economics, markets, and government policies, what would make the subordinates accept the development as ongoing process in order to stay and compete in the market?
Well, I mean, that is something that their boss, their executives need to understand that in order to stay competitive, you've got to do your research and development. Now, for the stakeholders, the people that are doing the professional development, so-called the grunts, the people that are doing all the heavy lifting, they need to have an incentive. They need to understand as well that, look, if they're going to have a piece of the game, if they're going to have a piece of this business, the chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So if those professionals aren't thinking about professional development, then I'd have to question them. You know, I'd have to question where they're at, because, you know, if you're only doing so well, how do you expect the rest of the business or the executives to do well? If you're doing exceedingly great, then you need to look to your left and right and see where your colleagues are at. Are they doing just as well? You know, you need to push them as well so the whole business gets better. But I do think that the boss needs to make sure that there's an incentive for professionally developing. In some cases, it could be monetary. In some cases, it might be a position. It might be a title. But that is an honest conversation that both bosses and their employees need to have, and that's what I talked about, being truthful. You know, that needs to be shared and truthful.
Okay, thank you very much. There's a supplementary question by Mr. Sharaf, that making innovation part of the organization culture is a challenge or it is a project itself?
I want to say both. I want to say both. It is very challenging to innovate, and as you see on the screen still, this is a wonderful article. You know, you need an innovation strategy. The strategy is it can be tough because there isn't time and money always. Usually we find innovation when the employee is by their lonesome. They're at home and they come up with a great idea on their own. Yes, it's tremendously challenging. You have businesses that fail because they can't execute innovation. Innovation is an ambiguous term. What does it mean? What does it look like? Innovation is progress. It might be at the very basic level. It could be at a macro level. But the problem is the execution. We need to be able to find out how we can get to that step of innovation. We need to be able to execute. So that is something that we will wrestle with, we will struggle with, but we need to find ways that we can execute. If we can execute, then we've got it.
Okay, sir. And we have one last question. What are some of the projects that you may want to start?
Me personally, well, I'm actually, I've just started, and this is historic for me. I am a history teacher, and started a course on the history of robotics and robotic psychology. Now, some people have said, oh, Dr. Fritz, you're crazy, you're insane. All that is true. However, the person that called me crazy 4 minutes before that was talking to Siri on their iPhone. So that's artificial intelligence. And my whole project that I'm starting there, robots, machines are inevitable in our time. We will just always interact with them from here on out. So it is fascinating to me as humans how we interact with them. Will we enslave them? Will they enslave us? I saw an article not too long in a robotics magazine about people in Japan burying the Asimo dog, that robotic dog. They've run out of parts, and now they're burying it. That's so much part of their psyche and their world that it's quite fascinating to me. So that's one project that I am on the cusp of, that is near and dear to my heart. It sounds odd, and it is, but this will be the first time in the States, in America, that this course is being offered.
Well, thank you very much, and that really brings us towards the end of the webinar, and I would like to especially thank you, Dr. Fritz, on behalf of the Madinah Institute for Leadership and Entrepreneurship, for your time and for the valuable information that you have shared today. Any concluding remarks that you would like to give before we dismiss out?
I have to say that both you and Roveda have been wonderful to me. You've been very helpful. This has been a great experience. I invite you and any of our guests, never hesitate. If you need a friend to help you with any information in education or anything with professional development, I am always at your service. Please don't ever hesitate to reach out to me. I am at your service. Thank you and shukran.
Thank you very much, and I must also say that equally we've enjoyed interacting with you and for your very prompt cooperation as usual, as always, and look forward to remaining engaged with you, sir, for upcoming webinars. So thank you very much once again, and thank you all of those who participated in this webinar. We are recording it. It will be uploaded on Mile Community, so you can access it from webinar.mile.org. Thank you very much. You all have a good day, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're calling from.
Madinah Institute for Leadership and Entrepreneurship, MILE.